Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I've got to tell you, I am absolutely thrilled to jump into this one with you. Today, we're looking at something just truly fascinating. We're going to explore how this ancient, deeply emotional Himalayan festival connects directly to a modern national education blueprint. I know, it sounds like two completely different worlds, right? But the way they intersect is going to absolutely blow your mind. So get ready, because we're about to see how the traditions of our past are actually building the classrooms of our future.
Okay, let's just take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the heart of Bhitauli, move into mountain life and longing, and then share some tales of wit and woe. After that, we'll look at evolving with the times, preserving our past, and finally wrap up with a modern educational blueprint. So let's jump right into Section 1, the heart of Bhitauli, an ancient promise of love. All right, to really get this, we need to mentally transport ourselves to the breathtaking Kumaon and Garhwal regions of Uttarakhand. Up there, when spring arrives in the Hindu month of Chaitra, so we're talking around March and April, it brings this incredibly unique tradition. The hills turn green, flowers are blooming, and this festival kicks off that is centered entirely around the bond of siblings. Now, Bhitauli isn't about grand temple rituals, right? It's not some massive, noisy public carnival. The name itself actually comes from the word bet, which means meeting or gift. It's really this deeply personal lifeline of connection for women living in the hills. Every single year, a brother or maybe a parent will make this long, tough trek to a married woman's new home, bringing gifts just to show her, hey, you're loved, and most importantly, you are never forgotten. And honestly, the rhythm of a Bhitauli day just brilliantly captures that gentle, heartfelt pace. Like I said, you won't see chaotic crowds here. It starts way before dawn with these quiet, loving preparations. Then, picture this. Morning breaks, and the brother finally emerges from the pine forests. That leads to this super warm greeting right at the gate. By afternoon, it's all about unwrapping these simple, incredibly thoughtful gifts. And the whole thing just winds down in the evening with these beautiful, emotional folk songs echoing through the courtyards. Moving on to Section 2, Mountain Life and Longing, the Weight of the Sisters. Now, to really appreciate the depth of this, we've got to understand the harsh realities that make a festival like this so absolutely necessary. Traditional mountain life is tough. I mean, we're talking early marriages, really heavy field work, and severe geographical isolation. All of this means that visits back to a woman's maternal home, what they call the mat, are incredibly rare. Just think about your own family for a second. Imagine being miles away and you can't just hop in a car or catch a quick train to see your parents. That kind of profound longing is perfectly captured in this traditional Kumawani folk lyric. No home is like the one in Chaitra. It reminds me of my mother's house. When Bhitauli finally arrives, it brings these incredible sensory comforts. The familiar smell of mountain air on her brother's clothes and the taste of homemade treats like kheer, sweet singal, and jaggery that just taste exactly like childhood. That brings us to Section 3, Tales of Wit and Woe, the Folklore of Bhitauli. You know, as with pretty much all deeply ingrained cultural practices, this kind of isolation has birthed some truly captivating folklore. And these stories, they aren't just fairy tales. They carry the emotional weight of generations. Take this heartbreaking legend, for instance. The story goes that this exhausted sister had been waiting days for her young brother to arrive with her Bhitauli. On the day he finally made the long trek, she had completely passed out, just fallen into this deep, heavy sleep from sheer exhaustion. Well, not wanting to wake her, the brother simply left the basket of gifts and quietly walked all the way back home. When she finally woke up and realized what happened, that she had missed him, that he had traveled all that way hungry and she slept right through it, she literally died of sheer grief. It's said she actually transformed into the Guhudi bird. And if you listen in the hills today, its song still sounds exactly like this tragic cry. My brother was hungry, and I slept. But hey, it's not all sorrow. These traditions also build tales of incredible, just absolute empowerment. Let's look at a totally different kind of Bhitauli story. This is the celebrated legend of Rami. She was a super witty, devoted single mother, and she decided that since there was no brother to do it, she was going to deliver the Bhitauli to her daughter herself. So she packed up a basket of local sweets and berries and just bravely stepped right into this dark, notoriously beast-filled forest. And you've got to love just how clever this is. Along the path, Rami comes face to face with a wild bear. But she thinks on her feet and tricks it, telling the bear she'll be much plumper and tastier after she eats a big meal at her daughter's house. But the real magic happens on her way back. Rami and her daughter use a tumadi, which is this giant hollowed-out bottle gourd that they charm with a local spell. Rami literally hides inside it and rolls right past the confused bear. When a pack of wild animals finally manage to break the gourd open, she springs out, blinds them all with a packet of chili powder, and makes a clean getaway. It is just a fantastic story of women using sharp wit and sheer courage to uphold their traditions. All right, let's jump to Section 4, Evolving with the Times, Tradition in the Modern Age.
So while those stories are obviously ancient, we have to acknowledge that the Bhitauli tradition itself is very much a living, breathing thing. It's not just stuck in the past, it is actively adapting to our fast-paced, highly modernized world. Just look at the contrast here. On one side, you have the traditional image, brothers physically walking for miles carrying heavy baskets of homemade goods. But on the other side, we have the reality of today, digital money transfers, fast-shipped parcels, and catching up over video calls. And what's really amazing is that even though we've traded those physical woven baskets for digital transfers, the core emotion, that profound message of "you are not forgotten," remains 100% intact.
This brings us to Section 5, Preserving Our Past, the CSJMU Academic Summit.
And that brings us to a really critical pivot in our explainer today. When we have this rich, evolving folklore and traditions like Bhitauli, how do we actively protect them? How do we make sure these cultural foundations don't just quietly fade away in our digital society? Well, it turns out the answer to that question is being figured out at the absolute highest levels of academia. In March 2024, Chhatrapati Shahuji Maharaj University in Kanpur hosted this landmark national seminar, sponsored by the prestigious Indian Council of Social Science Research. Experts from all over the country got together not just to talk about history, but to figure out how to literally weave this traditional wisdom, folklore, and cultural ethos directly into our everyday, modern classrooms.
Which perfectly tees up Section 6, A Modern Educational Blueprint, NEP 2020.
The major catalyst driving this massive academic collaboration is a visionary document you've probably heard of, the National Education Policy, or NEP 2020. This policy is completely rethinking what learning actually looks like in India. Let's break down exactly how they plan to pull this off. Their strategy is built on three main pillars: a multilingual, multicultural, and multidisciplinary framework. Basically, it moves us far away from the old days of strict rote memorization. Instead, the goal is to bring endangered regional dialects, indigenous wisdom, and ancient practices, just like the emotional intelligence we see in Bhitauli, straight into the curriculum. The whole point is to really foster creativity and critical thinking.
Now you might be wondering, why go to all this effort? Well, because this integration connects directly back to a much grander national vision, Atmanirbhar Bharat, meaning a self-reliant India. And true self-reliance, it isn't just economic, it is deeply cultural. You achieve it by confidently merging the deep, historic wisdom of Indian traditional knowledge systems with contemporary global science. By teaching students to draw strength from their own cultural DNA, you're essentially building a generation that is locally grounded but highly competitive on a global scale.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. Can the blueprint of our past truly become the foundation for a modernized, self-reliant future? The experts definitely say yes. But I want you to think about your own heritage and your own family's folklore. How could the wisdom of your ancestors fit into the future of global education? It's a lot to think about, isn't it? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.